Hi, this is Kristin Clark, and I'm here with Bobby Hood today on College Planning Untangled, where we help families simplify the college planning process. Bobby, how are you today?
Just great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we've got an interesting topic today, and it's just kind of that time of year where your college freshmen could be struggling, right? And the ones that are, I think that we need to take notice because at this point in their college career, that first year, as we know, when they get to school, it's a little bit tough because they're kind of just trying to settle in and figure everything out. But by this point in the year, they really should kind of be feeling a little bit comfortable with where they're at. And if they're not, I think it kind of becomes glaring at this point because, they're getting a little frustrated by it and not feeling good, right?
Absolutely. And right now, it's beginning of March. Spring break is about to come up for most people. And so that's a time when you might see your kids or you might have some conversations with them or something like that. And just a good time to check in because, if problems are like this is the point where problems can go from minor to major and then suddenly you end up not finishing classes freshman year and then everything can spiral out of control from there.
Yeah.
I think we've all known people it's happened to, and it's not something to be like it's a normal thing that can happen, right? So it's not something to be mad at someone about or anything like that. It's just, hey, you can get lost out there at school.
Yes. And you're right. I think that's a big part of this too, is really understanding all this stuff is normal
Mhm.
until it's not.
Right.
And I love that your point about it's spring break, so you might have eyeballs on this kiddo at that point, especially the freshmen, that they'll come home and hang out with you for a week. And, I think that there's some telling signs
Mhm.
when you have a kid that's really, truly struggling. And I think there's a couple different pieces of this, right? They might be struggling with one class where they're not doing well and not passing. So, let's
Right.
talk a little bit about that versus, that it's something larger. So, so they've got one class, they're failing, what are the next steps?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you could be doing fine in everything, but then one class is just so overwhelming. And then probably it's very tempting to just try to think you're an adult and deal with it on your own. And you're scared to say anything to your family about it. Right. And then once you don't say anything, then you feel like it's too late. And then you just start hiding it. And that's when things can get really dangerous. Right.
It can. And, there are lots and lots of opportunities on campus to take care of this yourself,
Sure.
as a student, like talking with your professor, going to your academic advisor and just going, okay, I'm in trouble.
Mhm.
How do I get out of trouble here?
Yeah, and most departments have, tutors and free help that if you just go in, they'll have an upperclassman and you're in the first year class for that subject, they'll help you out, right? And you can go and get resources, right? And I think so many people don't know about or use those or think that they're for someone else or something, like no, they're there, they're free,
And
go
by
and
the
use
way,
these things.
Bobby, lots of people deal with this, so go
Mhm.
ask. They've seen it
Right.
all,
Oh
and
yeah.
they just look at it as normal daily business, so
Right.
there's no reason to feel like, "Oh
Yeah.
my
Someone else
gosh."
has gone through this too.
Oh, for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah, and anybody listening in, please feel free to chime in on this topic
Yeah.
because as I put in the description of this, Bobby and I are not counselors, we're not therapists. We just work with a lot of teens, and we've been through this with, me with my own kids and with cousins and nieces and nephews and just all of our clients. So just realize that we're having a conversation about this so that
Right.
you can, you know, have some
Yeah,
thoughts around what to do.
absolutely. Just like if nothing else, you may not, your kid might be telling you everything's fine. You need to like just stop for a second and just make sure that things are fine, right? And
Yes.
so if you hadn't thought about the possibility of this, because nobody expects it, right? Then you wouldn't know what to look for, right?
Yes. And I will tell you, I get this question a lot around some parents feeling like they want to see their kids' grades in college.
Mhm.
And, number one, I think it's a personal family issue on that, whether you should be seeing grades or not.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge proponent of it because I feel like, we're sending them off to college. It's
Mhm.
their time to, grow up a little bit and start adulting. But hey, I also get that we're spending a lot to send them. So if that's
Yeah.
where your family falls, where you want to see grades, you guys figure that out. But it kind of leads you to, how do you even know? Like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have known for my kids if they
Mhm.
were failing a class. Um, but I think, to your point, when they come home for break,
Mhm.
to kind of probe and ask and just say, hey,
Mhm.
how are classes going? Wow, tell me what classes you're taking again. That one sounds really hard. Is it really
Mhm.
hard? Just ask questions and see what reactions you get. Your kid,
Yeah,
and you're gonna be able to tell the
absolutely.
tales, the signs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, like, all sorts of different things can happen. Like, you could have, uh, you could have personal things going on. Somebody breaks up with you or whatever. I mean, I remember, like, all of these things can go in different directions. Like, I had a semester where somebody, I broke up with somebody, and that semester I got the highest grades I had ever gotten because I just never did anything but study, right? Because I was just kind of depressed and, like, doing my own thing. But then the other version is, you can have a semester where you're just having too much fun or whatever, or you're depressed and you just don't leave your room and you don't study. So it can go the opposite direction. Then you can get the worst grades you've ever gotten. And I've done both sides of that, right? You can have students who have such high cognitive, skills that they coasted through high school without ever doing any work, and then they go to
Yeah,
college and
and it's hard.
realize, oh, I actually have to do work and I don't know how to do that, right? I don't know how to manage multiple classes and all the homework, especially if you are in one of the really killer, majors. If you're pre-med or engineering or accounting or any of these things that's so hard, so you can discover that you don't have the study skills, right? These are all things that could happen, right? Or just socially, you could feel like you're in the wrong place, or you're in the wrong major, or that and you don't know what to do.
Right.
You just know you don't like what's going on, and then you can just shut down. you know
Yeah, and I think it's really important for parents to prepare themselves, especially parents of freshmen coming back home for spring
Mhm.
break, just to be able to, whatever comes their way,
Mhm.
to put on their poker face, and just go,
Oh yeah.
tell me more about it. Tell me what's happening. I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
Love you dearly, kiddo. I'm super proud of you. What's happening? Talk to me and tell me what's
Mhm.
going on because I want to help, right? And I will tell you, there are definitely some telltale signs because I did deal with
Mhm.
this. And I've got people around me that have dealt with
Mhm.
bigger problems than just I'm failing a class.
Yeah.
It could be that you have a kid that's just not even going to any of the classes,
Mhm.
right? And how do you know that? How do you figure it out?
Yeah.
Bobby, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of Life 360 in
Mhm.
college. And I know this is a controversial subject because I've seen it all over Facebook and the chat rooms
Mhm.
where people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do that. Um, but I will tell you that it's, if you don't abuse it,
Mhm.
I think personally, it's a great tool to have. When we were having some challenges with one of our kiddos, just making sure he left the apartment was important to us to know, right?
Mhm.
So he was struggling and he would sit in his apartment for days where we could
Mhm.
at least look and go, we got to step in.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, if you don't have Life 360, I think the other thing is if they're not returning phone calls,
Mhm.
if when you do call, they're short, they're
Mhm.
frustrated, they won't answer any questions about school. Um, they blow you off, they get mad when they typically wouldn't. All those are
Right.
like little signs to be able for you to go, wow, something doesn't feel right. You
Absolutely.
know?
And yeah, and it may be like, yeah, I think having something like a tool like that, and like starting on day one and checking in every day, and helicoptering like that, I think that's probably invasive and is
For
going
sure.
to backfire. But as you said, if you just use it like when you sense that there might be something going on, you use it sparingly, to be like, okay, no, you're out, you're doing stuff. Okay. But like you can discover these things. And I mean, I guess it's a little different now, but I mean, I remember when I was in college, I mean, I know a person who went to high school with me who for 2 years just pretended to be in college to
Oh,
their
sure.
parents.
I
And
you know, we
like
all knew
straight
those
up
people.
not even
Yeah.
actually enrolled and
Yeah.
was just working at a restaurant, and that situation turned out really, really, really bad, So like these are situations where it's like you can't just accept just one piece of information and say, okay, that's all, like, oh, they said everything's fine. That's not enough information. You need a little
It's
more than that.
not
Yeah,
because you could go days on end without seeing them or talking to them. And back to your point, Bobby, about you can't be watchdogging this. You know what? If they're out until 2 or 3 in the morning, but they're getting their stuff done, I
absolutely.
just went, you know what? Not my business.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're doing what college kids do.
Right,
So
socializing and making friends and doing stuff and yeah, and learning how to juggle life and do multiple things, right? Whether
yeah,
whether it is, that's probably not the best lifestyle to try to continue forever, but many college students are going to do it and you can be perfectly successful and then, and then later on you realize, oh, that's kind of exhausting, right? you know,
they
but
do
yeah,
figure
that's
it
part
out.
of it. But
Yeah.
but that's a better situation than the never leaving your apartment because I have relatives of mine that happened to. It's hard. It takes years to get back out of. And I think it's important to note that like the students today who are the age to be going to college are a lot more aware, most of them, of just mental health issues and don't think of it as much of a stigma. So like they probably will be if you actually ask about it. You can straight up ask, and just see, right? They might be less likely to hide it if you ask the right questions, but it can
Yeah,
happen to anyone.
I agree on that, Bobby. I can't tell you how many of my clients that they're very open about, going to
Mhm.
counselors and therapists and all that
Yeah,
stuff, that it's just common conversation now.
yeah,
It's not like
absolutely.
this, "Ooh, Kristin, come here, let me tell you something."
Yeah, exactly.
"Hey, everybody, here's what my
Absolutely.
counselor said." Yeah, so I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's much more, acceptable and accepted at their age.
Hmm.
And that's another thing I will tell you that, if you do see this kid struggling, let's figure out why and let's get them some help. And college campuses have wonderful services these days, to help them with
Absolutely.
this.
And so
Yeah.
that's part of the thing is like this could happen for a lot of reasons. And as I said before, it could be personal things happen. You're not fitting in. You break up with somebody, something bad happens to you personally, that can send you into a bad situation. But it can be as simple as you picked the wrong major, you aren't in a major, you feel lost, you hate the classes you're in, the classes you're in are too hard. These are things that you and I talk about a lot on this program, right? Because that's something that you can, if you have kids in high school right now, if you have a junior or a senior right now, might be the time to
Get ahead of it.
get ahead of
Yeah.
that. And if you have a freshman in college, this might be a thing that you could say right now as spring break's coming up. Hey, what do you think of the major that you chose? Or have you chosen a major because you might not have yet? How are you feeling about the classes in your major? How are you feeling about your life direction? Because, like, if you're liking your major, you should already at this point in freshman year be getting some ideas about jobs you might get. And so if you ask that question, you might find out, okay, we need to make a change. Maybe engineering or pre-med is not the place you want to be because, I've talked a whole lot about my best friend who went all the way through pre-med and went through med school and was in med school and was the second year in med school and then went and became a game programmer. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Well,
why spend 7 years doing that, when you could
yes.
make
And
that change
Bobby, I
freshman day?
agree with you. I think too, for parents, I think sometimes we get more attached to a major or what they think that
Mhm.
they said they wanted to do. And I see so many kids that they tell their parents that, okay, I'll just do that
Yeah.
because they don't want them to ask them anymore.
Right.
And so they go into college and let's say it is engineering, because we'll just pick on engineering right now, because
Yeah.
that's kind of the soup du jour that's
Mhm.
happening that I see a lot of. They get into college and all of a sudden these classes are not fun, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of math. and a
took
lot of
one. I
advanced
took
math.
one of those, and I immediately got away from that major.
Yes. And it's just not for everybody. And the thing is, even though you're good at math, you
Mhm.
might not be good at all the math,
Oh my,
that this
yeah.
constant math that you have to do. And I tell my students all the time, I'm like, listen, if you get that feeling in the pit of your gut that you're going, I don't think this is right,
Mhm.
man, start talking now. Talk to
Yeah.
your parents. They're your biggest cheerleaders. Talk to your college consultant.
Mhm.
Talk to anybody and just figure it out fast because time is ticking at this point, you
Oh,
know?
absolutely not. And I would say, as a former law attorney who stopped practicing law, uh, the number of conversations I've had in my life with other people who practiced law and then quit practicing law, or went to law school and then didn't practice law, or were majoring in and considering it. And the number of conversations I've had in my life, I had one in the past 3 days. I had a conversation with someone who's like, my dad was attorney, my mother was a college professor. And so I was on that path, and then I had to, veer out of it, but I was just on that path because my dad was an attorney. I mean, I've had thousands of conversations like that. It
Yes. And
is
Bobby,
so common.
I
Like,
love the conversation because here's what it always is. Well, my mom was good at, she liked it. She makes good
mhm,
money. I just
yeah,
figured that's what I'd do. Right. And there's
100%.
that. And that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we all think, oh, we're unique that, we struggled with the same thing. And it's like, no, no, this is everyone does this. And God, I wish I had, had the, some class or something that I could have done, that would have, helped me figure that out back
Yeah.
then.
Well,
It
and
would have
as you
saved me a lot
know,
of years.
I know, right? Well, and you know what the problem is though, Bobby? It's
Mhm.
we're just not having the conversation.
Right.
It's one of the most costly decisions you're making when you're going to college, and it's the least we're spending the least amount of time on it,
You talk
on figuring
forever
out the
about
major.
choosing a college, and you never talk about choosing a major or a career. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And yeah,
yeah.
that's getting it out of order, right? You got to figure out the major, then you can figure out the college. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, and what's gonna make you happy?
Mhm.
What
Right.
yeah,
It's not
I
just the
can go
major,
on for
it's what
hours
sorts
about
of
this.
things would make you happy. What are your passions? What are your strengths? Absolutely. And this is what you help students with, and you've helped, several of my students out with it. And it really is. It's the most valuable thing I think that you can do, you know.
And here's the thing, if your freshman is struggling and you find out it is about, I'm in the
Mhm.
wrong major, I'm not even taking my classes, they were too hard. I have a ton of college freshmen that go through my class to figure out their major so that because, and
Mhm.
now that they've got a little bit of runway underneath them,
Yeah.
it's almost easier for them to go, okay, I know what I don't want to do. Right.
Absolutely right. You in high school, I think a lot of students are like, well, I just don't know. I don't know anything, right? And so how can I make any choices until I know something? And so, okay, go out to college, spend your first semester of your freshman year, you're taking your basic stuff, but you're getting a little exposure to other things, right? And so, yeah, that's absolutely,
Yeah, and
something that you can do.
it can mean the difference between them really struggling and them getting excited.
Mhm.
I have a lot of my parents that they'll go, "Oh my gosh," like they
Mhm.
came down excited after you guys talked,
Mhm.
and because they saw kind of that hope, that light at the end of the tunnel where they're like,
Right.
"Ooh, oh, I think I have it figured out," and
Yeah.
gosh, it just goes a long way.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So yeah, I would definitely think, the first part of this is look for signs, ask questions, remember that phrase, tell me more,
Yep, it's the
don't
7
make
little
judgments,
words.
right?
That's really interesting. Tell me more. Ask them to just open up and
Mhm.
talk to you.
Yeah.
Put on the poker face.
Yeah. So that's, the piece of it. And then, yeah, if they need actual professional help and counseling, then yeah, now and get those resources involved. But also be aware that it could be as simple as I am lost like so many people are in college, and I don't know what my major should be, and I don't like the one that I picked, and I'm afraid to say that to my parents because they want me to. I think that they want me to be an attorney like dad or mom and or whatever. And the thing is, no, parents want you to be happy and successful.
Yeah.
They don't care what they don't actually care. They just know, well, this is what I did, so I know that worked for me, and so they think everybody thinks their kid is a copy of them or something when they're not, right?
And they're
And
very
so I
yeah, they're
think
very
that's
much
good,
not.
right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, and I know you work with students one-on-one, but you also do group classes and you've got some starting up, right? And so, I mean, that would
Yep.
be the easy thing to be talking about right
Absolutely, and I will put the, class in the post too. And I think the other thing to remember too for parents is is really letting your kid know that
now.
you do love them and trust their judgment and are there to help, and, letting them know that you're proud of them, because that goes a
Yeah.
long way.
Oh, absolutely. And there's another side thing, which is just a lot of times, I see this so much, and you probably do too, and is that there are things that students don't want to say to their parents for some reason, and they will just happily volunteer that information to a third party.
Oh,
And
for sure.
so just simply getting your kid talking to someone outside the family about topics like this, suddenly you can probably get, like, there are probably like careers that kids say to you, and then they're like, oh, but I would have never said that to my mom, that I want to be this, right?
Here's what
You
I love,
know.
Bobby. I'm telling you, this happens usually in the first conversation.
Uh-huh.
They'll be sitting there talking, 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 and then they'll lean in. They all
Mhm.
lean in and they'll go, Kristen, I have been thinking about something. And
Right.
I'm like, every time that happens, I'm like, I've got them right there.
Yeah.
Cause it's
Yeah, yeah.
something that they're excited about, and
Right.
it's so fun to watch.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, and so, I mean, it may be as simple as, like, not everybody has the perfect relationship with their kid where they can do that, but it amazes me how often students just volunteer things that I feel like might be less likely that they would volunteer them with their parents. And that's, like I always say to my tutoring parents, so I'm like, look, if you have a thing you want your kid to have communicate to you, like, you need to work hard on this, or you need to, like, meet, whatever often. If I say it, they'll take it seriously. And if parents say it, a lot of times their first instinct is just to resist and be skeptical, and
for
so that's
sure.
part of
Yeah.
it. Right.
Yep.
Well,
All right.
absolutely.
I think we're good. I think we've talked through this.
Well,
So,
great. So if you want to sign up for Kristen's courses, they are just on your website, right? You can just go right on there
yeah,
and see
and I
them.
put them in
Yep.
the chat.
Oh,
So,
perfect. I picked the right major link. Yeah. And so anytime, if you want to talk to me, there's a contact me link on my website. I'm always happy to answer questions. So is Kristen. We're happy to do a free appointment where we talk to you and explain what we do. So just let us know.
all right, we are good to
Mhm.
go. See you.
Okay.